All right, and I believe you should be seeing my screen here. So welcome everyone. Little introduction to the Muskegon Assessors Toolbox. Hopefully more than a little introduction. I don't have this thing fully scripted out, so it's going to be live as we walk through it, but I do have just a few slides to kind of show you some of the applications that Nate and I have been building that will hopefully make your lives a lot easier. I know the AMAR is coming up here in a few weeks to a couple of months, depending on the scheduling for different people in the county. And so hopefully these applications will help you in that process, as well as then after this, actually make a usable product for you to make educated and informed decisions on. So today, the intention is just to give you an overview and show you the functionalities of what's been built into the toolbox so far. And I call it the toolbox because it's a collection of different tools that are designed to help you, the assessor, conduct your work. So with that, we'll get started. And let's see. So obviously, most of you, all of you, hopefully know who I am. Tom Van Bruggen, GIS administrator. Joined on our meeting today is also Nate Hollenbach. He's an IT Tier 2 technician, GIS specialist here at IT. And he has helped me and does help me regularly on building these applications and help supporting them. So you'll get our contact information at the end of the presentation slides as well. So I wanted to start with just a couple of quotes about change and about technology. We'll start with this one. Once a new technology rolls over you, if you're not part of the steamroller, you're part of the road. Well, you can obviously then make that choice. Do you want to be rolled over, or do you want to be part on what's pushing forward and hopefully making a smoother road too? I want to encourage you that change is hard. Technology change can sometimes be even harder yet. We're living in an unprecedented time. I don't like that word, but that's the word that's been coined with this whole COVID pandemic. But we really are always living in a state of change, and technology changes more rapidly than we can possibly stay up to it. Everything you're seeing is because technology has evolved and changed a lot. So we are working on giving you better tools, and we hope that you'll be part of the steamroller and not get rolled over. Please don't feel overwhelmed by what we're trying to present to you today. It is a learning curve, and there's going to be a lot here, and then there will be a lot more to come in the future as well. You also can't build an adaptable organization without adaptable people. And individuals change only when they have to or when they want to. A quote from Gary Hamel. We want to be adaptable people, most of us do anyway, and we also want to be on the part where they want to change and embrace the change. And that's what I'm really hoping to do with this educational meeting today. And again, this is just some of the things that we've put together. We want you guys as the assessors to be the ones that can actually dictate and direct what is actually going into this application, into the toolbox in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. Because this is going to evolve into more and more, and you'll hear about some of the future plans we have later in the presentation. Today, really pretty simple agenda. I want to give you a little bit of background on the Assessor's Toolbox and how it's coming about. Then we'll jump into the main portion of our actual meeting, which is the live technology preview. Then we'll talk about some future ideas. I'll give you the URL to the actual toolbox that you can jot down or screen capture. You'll get your username and passwords. I'll also send follow-up emails out here today with that in there to each of you. And then we'll also have open Q&A time at the end for your feedback. And again, during the live technology preview, I'd like to walk through each of the applications that are in the toolbox right now. And then at the end of each application, before I go to the next one, I'll unmute and we can have open Q&A time during that as well. We'll try to keep this to about an hour, but I did schedule an hour and a half for the meeting just to make sure that we had plenty of time. So the Assessor's Toolbox, a background, why? Many of you already know some of the whys. The Assessor's Toolbox concept is something I shared with Terry probably 8 to 10 years ago. And it's taken this long to actually get technology to come to the point where I've got some tools in my toolbox on the GIS side that allow us to actually be able to deploy these tools the way I want. But really, why is because we've got outdated applications. You know, the property viewer has been released in its current form for about 6 years. 6 years in a digital environment is an eternity. Other applications like the Ecf Viewer, the land table, some of the, the survey viewer, the tax map viewer, some of those were on so many different environments, each one standing alone and not connected in any way, that the maintenance of them was becoming very tedious. Each application you had to log into separately. You had to open up a separate URL link. Also, in recent months and even the last year, degrading performance. The speed of the older applications has just been really taking a hit as security changes in the web environment have really put some bigger hurdles in the way of those older applications. Pair that with some opportunities. The county IT and county GIS environments are being completely overhauled, and we have brand new hardware at the county level. Most of you as users already know that the desktop VDI clients that used to be connected to your phone or the little white towers have been replaced for most of you with a new black tower. That's allowing system upgrades to happen in the next 3 to 6 months also, where we're going to be upgrading to brand new servers. You're going to get Windows upgrades. You're going to get Office 2019, you're going to get Windows 10. There's going to be a lot of other softwares across the platform that are going to be upgraded. And so with that, there's lots of changes on the hardware and software side. Then couple that also with better user experience and expandability. So with that, we've decided to go forth and finally get a toolbox environment put forth. So the Assessor's Toolbox, it's nearly a single sign-on. So if you want to open up 5 different applications, you can open up all 5 applications and you'd only have to log into the toolbox once. With the caveat that pictometry, because it's not a county application, it is its own application, you have a different login credentials for pictometry. But pictometry has been integrated into the toolbox as well. All the applications are in one location. If you open up the Assessor's Toolbox, you'll see shortly here that all of the applications are tabbed across the top of your browser, and you can just switch tabs. You don't have to log into each one independently. Once you're logged in, again, except for the pictometry applications that will require a second login. The environment is continually updated. Everything is being driven off of what is in the county assessor's 21 database or corresponding databases for past year's values. So from a non-assessing unit assessing jurisdiction, for example, I see Wanda, you're on, Carl, you're on. All of the data that's shown is based on when you bring the database into equalization, and they've integrated and updated the countywide database with your local database. If you want these to be updated more often, we're going to probably need your database updates more often. But as you see the value of what comes from this, hopefully you'll understand, and that would be a minor inconvenience for the fact of keeping your data up to date in the toolbox. And then performance and the overall user experience. A much more consistent user experience, and the performance is tremendously improved. Many of you have shared with me, the property viewer won't log in because it times out and you have to refresh it twice sometimes to get it to actually start running. Those have all been tremendously improved in this application. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our actual live presentation side of the toolbox. So when you get to the toolbox, from the link that you'll get after the meeting, you will have this sign in to Muskegon County GIS Enterprise Portal. Okay, I've given you all a viewing user to the GIS. So you will have your username and password. And once you log in and sign in, and type your password right. For whatever reason, it doesn't like my password all the time. You will be greeted with the splash screen of the Muskegon Assessors Toolbox. And so this is your first view at the Assessors Toolbox. Splash screen just kind of gives you a little bit of information and kind of a landing page for what's going on with the toolbox. It gives my contact information that you'll be able to link to me, and just kind of gives that introductory page. In general, what you will see, you won't see these green, orange, and blue buttons. That's because I'm an administrator of the toolbox and I get to see those edit buttons. You wouldn't see those, but the rest will look exactly like what you have. And across the top, then you have a series of tabs that are all the different current applications within the toolbox. I'm going to start, and I'm just going to kind of walk from left to right through all of these, and we'll take a break between each one just to see if there's any questions. One of the newest applications that I'm working on, and this is still kind of in its beta release, I'm working on a few settings of this, but oftentimes it's like, wait a minute, what's the weather? Do I have weather coming at me? Now, obviously, most of us have a smartphone and we have our weather apps, and those might be just as good to pull up. But we're looking at integrating a live weather radar feed into our application here. So it will load that radar. It does take a bit to load through because it's pulling from national servers and things like that. But you can see, obviously, we had the rain that went through this morning. The looping is a little bit glitchy at times, so I am working on that. So you just got to be patient and let it actually load if you want to see that. All of the pink circles and yellow circles are the different weather recording stations that are in this application. As I walk through these applications, all of the applications are going to have a generally similar look and feel except for the pictometry, which again is its own application, and then one later on that you'll see. But the tools within them are all going to be very similar. So you will always be presented with your title of the individual application up in the upper left underneath the tabs. And underneath that, you'll have a series of tool buttons. For the weather radar map, the tools are pretty limited because we're just trying to give you a picture of the weather. But you can actually go through and go to the layer list, which is this stack of sheets. And you can then explore and turn on and off different layers. For example, if you don't want state boundaries, you can turn that on and off. If you don't want to see county boundaries, you can click those on and off. The temperature reading points are actually at the different stations, so you're getting temperature readings. Some of those, if you click on that individual point, so Grand Rapids Weather Station, as of 9:53 a.m., it was 69.1 degrees, 81% humidity, broken clouds, visibility at almost 10 miles. So you can click on the individual weather stations that might be closest to you to get a condition report. And this is updating continuously. Although once you load the app, sometimes it quits loading until you do a refresh of the app, which is just your recycle or refresh button. I'm using Google Chrome for that. Again, you can navigate through any of these layers. You can turn on if you wanted to see, hey, is it going to be windy out today? And we'll go ahead and zoom in and let it refresh a moment. Turn off a couple of layers because again, this is pulling from nationwide data, but you can look at wind speeds. You can look at wind speeds on the land, wind speeds over water. Depends on where the weather reporting stations are. We do have buoys out in the lake that do show those wind speeds. They should be showing up here. There we go. And so you can click on those different stations and get your wind speeds and things like that as well. Also give an indicator of your directional wind speed. And your precipitation layer, again, this is just a weather radar. Most of us have a weather app that might be just as sufficient, but it's something that we can incorporate here. Any questions on the weather radar app? If you do, just raise your hand a minute. I don't know that there would need to be any on this one. Okay, from there, we're going to go into your first look at the brand new property viewer, which has not even been released to the public yet. It will be being released this week, if not this week, in a week and a half. I'm debating whether I release it this week because I'm on vacation next week and I don't want to cause too many stumbling blocks for people. But property viewer, so when you get to the property viewer, you're introduced to the splash screen that you do have to agree to each time. Now, I know that this, from the staffing perspective, isn't necessary all the time, but this is actually a full embed of the exact same viewer that the public would see once it's launched to the public. And the public needs to agree to the terms and services that basically give us a disclaimer. So you agree to your terms and conditions, you say okay, and you are greeted with a pretty simple view of the property viewer. Again, toolbars in the upper left, an informational panel on the left side, some zoom in and out and home zoom buttons. If you're on a mobile device that has location enabled, you have a find me button and it will zoom to where you are, a previous and next extents back and forth, and some other tools that we'll go through shortly. So the property viewer is simply designed to replace the existing property viewer that we've had for years. The idea is to get information on individual properties out to whoever's looking at it. So we will look at a property and we'll start by doing a search. So if you start searching by an address, parcel number, or owner's name, it's all pulling from the assessor's data. So just remember that you're putting in addresses just as you would as an assessor. We're going to look at my first house. It's not my current house, but we'll go look at that. So I'll choose 1365 Allen. It will go, it zooms to it. And in this left information pane, it brings up the basic information about the property. All of the same information from the previous property viewer is there, just laid out in a tabular view over here. If you click on an adjacent property, it will bring up, give it a moment here, it'll bring up the same information panel, although this looks different. So when I did the search before, it automatically selected the parcel. When I go and I click on a map, it will bring up any of the selectable information layers that are on the location that I clicked on. So you'll see in this case, it says 1 of 2. The 1 of 2 is first it found, oh, you clicked on a subdivision. Its subdivision name is Suncrest. Here's some basic information about the Suncrest subdivision. Here is the important link on here, the subdivision plan. If I click the more information button, it opens another window and there's the subdivision plat for you to review as well. These are all scanned from the Register of Deeds and saved on our GIS system. So you'll have that. I will pull up a little bit later a condominium and show you some new things we've done with condominiums as well. But this is called our pop-up or our information panel. And then if I click the next button, it'll show, oh, the second feature that it found where I clicked was a parcel. And here again is that parcel information. Okay. Again, the tools, and I'm going to walk through the different tools along the top. So we'll start with the leftmost tool. That's the legend. You know, what is this different green line? What's this green line? I don't know what that is. Or what if I saw this pink purple slashed area? What is that? So if you click on the legend button, that will show what's on screen for your different line types. As you zoom out, some of the layers may actually turn off. And if those layers turn off, then they will start disappearing in our legend panel. So you'll see that. You will see some features that aren't on the legend panel, and that's because they're part of the base map. So for example, the tan area are school properties with a school flag. It's just part of our base map. And the base map doesn't show individual layers, it just has the base information. In this particular base map, you also see the structure outlines from our 2019 pictometry flight where they gave us deliverable building rooftops. So we have that information available. The second button is the layer list. Layer list allows you to turn on and off different layers to your liking, or if something is cluttering it, you can turn it off. You can expand these. So anytime there's a arrow pointing to the right on the left of it, you can expand it and it'll either show you what that layer looks like, and you could independently turn on and off those layers. So if I zoom out, we've got US 31 over here, and part of it's on the base map, but part of it as you zoom in is on the individual highway layer as well. So you could turn off the streets layer, for example, and those all go off. You'll also notice there are 3 versions of street center line. The one that's in bold black is the one that's active at that zoom scale. If I zoom in further, you see the lower one turned on, and that's because the labeling is different at each zoom scale. You don't have to worry about that. It's just some of the background things we do to make it visible. And then obviously if I turn off the top level streets, it turns off everything. Within the property viewer, we have several grouped areas of layers. We have the platted areas. So if you wanted to see the plat names, and as you zoom in, you could see block numbers, for example, if your city has blocks. You know, you want to see the original lot lines, you can turn on and off individual layers. You'll see also you can turn on and off subdivisions and condominiums. If you wanted to see elevation contours, we do have those available. I'm going to recommend that you actually be very careful with these. Not that you're not going to hurt anything, but they do take a long time to load, especially the contours L. The L stands for live. If I turned that on right now, it wouldn't even turn on because it's grayed out. It's outside of its zoom scale. The contours here on this level are actually pretty quick because they're cached into the memory of the application. So they do turn on pretty quickly. I happen to be in the city area that's pretty flat, but you can then see your contours, and there is a contour labeling on those as well. If you zoom nice and tight in, then you can turn on your live contours, and I'm zoomed quite a ways in. This is where you got to be patient to see how the live contours want to draw. Down in the lower right, you'll see the little spinning circle there. That is telling you that it is trying to load something yet. And again, the live contours is a huge data set. Oftentimes, you'll be better served by staying with the first contours and staying zoomed out a bit where they draw really quickly. And that'll give you the good view of the land. So that's the layer list button. And on future apps, I won't go through all the different buttons, but know that the functionality is there. The next button is called that pop-up panel, or the selected feature information. That's the one it starts with. So again, if I click on an individual property, I can find out that it's in Eastgate Edition #1 subdivision, and I can find the plan, or I can find the individual property information that happens to be Sheldon Park. And that is coming from the ownership information from BSNA. If you want to look at aerial photography, the fourth button over is the Base Map Selector button. That Base Map Selector button gives you all of these different base map choices. So if it's late at night and you want to just see a reference map and you're sitting in a dark room and you wanted to see it and not have it be so bright on your eyes, you could choose a street at night base map. The bottom six, the 5 of the bottom 6 base maps are worldwide base maps. The Muskegon base map is our standard base map that it starts with. And then these up here, the first 5, if it's got a date 2001, 8, 14, 19, and yeah, those first 4 are our aerial photography. So if you wanted to see the Muskegon 2019 aerial photography, you would just select that one. You can zoom in, and this will be from our 6-inch resolution aerial photography that we have as part of our GIS system. In the future, we will be integrating pictometry, and you'll hear more about that later, into this viewer as well. There are some new tools that are allowing that to happen. The last tool on the toolbar up here is the More, because there's actually 4 nested tools. There's a bookmark. So if you choose bookmark, you could go through and say, hey, I want to instantly zoom to Roosevelt Park. You can click that and it will zoom there. I'm going to go ahead and change my base map back to my Muskegon base. I'm going to turn off those contours just for visibility. But for example, I clicked that and it just zoomed me right to Roosevelt Park. All of the municipalities have been pre-programmed in here. So if I want to jump over to the village of Casnovia, I just go to the bookmark and zoom there, and it can just jump me over to where I want to be quickly. There's also a print functionality. And if I go to the print functionality, we have a property viewer letter portrait report, or we have a property viewer. Now you'll see other map templates in here. By default, it goes to the portrait report, but we can also do a portrait map, a property viewer landscape map. Now we have a one print service that drives all of these applications. So there's a different viewer that uses a drain viewer template. We'll just choose the portrait map. We're going to create a PDF, but you can choose if you wanted it to be a JPEG image or a PNG image, whatever you'd like. If you want to get more advanced tools, you can click the advanced and choose different scales. You can force a specific scale. You can put a different title in there. Oops. and that type of thing. You can also, up on the main screen, type whatever title you want. So if you wanted to say subject property, Village of Casnovia, you could type that in there, and then when it creates the map, it will actually have that as the title. So we'll go ahead and hit print, and it will give you a status bar. It's trying to create that PDF print. Once that print is ready, it will take away the status bar and it'll show you the PDF icon. In the case of choosing a PDF, I'll click on that. It'll open a new tab, and here's the print report of whatever is on your map there. A basic disclaimer, printed time, scale, and then your title shows up at the top of the map. I won't come back and show that again, but just know that when I show a couple of other tools here, if you do some markups on your map, those will show on that map as well. And if we want to come back to that, we can as well. There is a property report. Now, property report in this new application does work differently than the old application. The old application, it showed it at the bottom of the information panel. In this case, you now have the option to actually select a parcel or multiple parcels to run a report from. So when you click the property report, it doesn't know what properties are selected to run a report on. You're given this little toolbar, and you have a pinpoint choice. If you wanted to just choose one property, you could use a line, you can draw a rectangle, you can draw a polygon, or you can do drag a rectangle with multiple clicks in it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just do a line selection, and I'm just going to click to start drawing. I'm drawing my line. I can single click and draw my line across to wherever I want to go. And at the end, I'm going to double click to complete it. It's going to then zoom to the drawing of the line that I've got. I can choose which selectable layer I want to pull from. So I'll pull from parcels. Actually, no, I want to unselect all of them, and I want to choose parcels. But you could do a selection for your reporting on any of the layers, but really you want to just do parcels. Oh, it looks like I cleared my drawing line. I know it's a different line, but we'll do that. So I've got parcels selected. If I wanted to, I could say I want to pull parcels from within a distance of that selection. In this case, I won't do that, and I'll just go ahead and say report. It'll bring me to the report screen. It'll tell me that my line was 2,670 feet long. Do I want to refresh it? Do I want to change any settings? But most of the time, you're just going to go print. I'm going to choose the report, which was already there, and I'm going to hit print. And what it will generate is this property report. Now, if you had a single property selected, it would just show one line. If you have multiple properties selected, it will show you groups of different attributes all together for in this case, 8 properties. So there is my map that goes with it. That's what was generating at the top to show you what I selected. And here are my 8 parcels that were crossed by that line that I selected. And here are all the informational attributes that I'm exposing for you to be able to see that are out there. And it does include the description. And from here, once you have that, you could simply go print. And depending on your printers that you have available, you can save it as a PDF. You could print it to your local printer. You could save it to a Google Drive. You can do several options. Whatever you have available for different printers would show up as well. So if I'm just going to say save as a PDF, I will expose that. It'll ask me where I want to put it. I'll save the assessing report. I downloaded that, so I will minimize that and try to see if that shows up there. Here's the assessing report on my desktop. And here is the PDF that you could then save, email, print, etc. And it has all of that same information we were looking at. The last button in the menu box is just the About, and it actually is the exact same data that has the disclaimer screen shows. What's nice about that is if you need to contact us, here are a couple of hyperlinks that we have to get to our website and our contact pages for the application. Other tools that are available, we have the coordinate conversion tool. So let's say you wanted to find out information about different coordinates. If somebody wants, to find out the corners of their property, they can come out and click in different locations, and it gives them a push pin, and it will tell them what the coordinates are at that push pin location. So as I click there, you'll see some slight changes on the different longitude and latitude XYZ coordinates. It'll also give it to them in a couple of different formats: degrees, minutes, seconds, decimal degrees with minutes, and just decimal degrees. And then this is here your raw longitude and latitude. We have a drawing tool. And on this drawing tool, you have a bunch of different options. You could put text. And if you click the text button, go click a point. Oops. My subject property, I want to make it red and font size 20, and I'll go click out here, and that's going to put that right on there. Let's say I wanted to draw a line. I've got a bunch of different line drawing tool selections. So I can press down and hold to draw a line. And again, you can get as fancy or creative as you want. On a multi-point line, you click once. Come on, I clicked it off. There we go. Click to draw. Every time you click, it keeps it connected. You can draw areas. You can draw circles. Let's just do a pink circle. Draw a pink circle, and you can do all sorts of different shapes in the drawings. If you go down and hit clear, it will clear all of your drawings, anything that's in the drawing. So if you want to keep it, you're going to want to, if you did an undo, it would undo the last drawing. If you do a clear, it'll clear every drawing that's in that particular map that you have. So if you do those drawings, remember that if you do the drawings and then go to the print, it will maintain those drawings on the print functionality. The last tool then is the measurement tool. Simple measurements of I want to measure an area. I can choose a polygon. Once I draw that, it will finish and it tells me what I drew was 3.43 acres. I have different units of measurement that I can do. I can also just measure distances. 0.12 miles, I can change that to feet and it'll automatically change it. I don't have to redraw what I put in there. I want to know what it is in yards, whatever you would like to measure in. So that is a very quick tour of the new property viewer. I'll go ahead and unmute everybody. And I will see, are there any questions? Somebody's in a construction zone. Any questions on the property viewer? Okay. If there are no questions, I'll go ahead and mute everybody again, and we'll move on to the Ecf Viewer. And then we'll roll through the rest of these a little bit quicker because we'll just go over the changes. So, not seeing any questions or hearing any. Okay, so we will start through the rest of the tools here. So the next one is the Ecf Viewer. Now, there was a previous Ecf Viewer tool, and so this is going to be very similar to it, other than it's giving you the new tools and functionalities. On some of the individual applications, there aren't as many tools in the toolbar up at the top, so you don't have that triple bar button to get into all of the different functionalities there. If there's stuff that as you start using these, you need something added, a tool that's in one app that's not in another, and you're like, wait, I'd like to be able to do this, let us know. We can customize those. This really needs to become your guys' application for functionalities. So this one's the Ecf Neighborhood Viewer. Now you're like, wait a minute, I don't see anything. That is correct. So when this application loads up, it's exactly like you see it here. You can do the same exact search, But before you're ever going to get to see any Ecf neighborhoods, it starts with the layer list open on this application. And you'll need to expand your Ecf neighborhoods and choose which municipality you want to look at. Okay, so for our case today, we'll just choose Fruitport, and I will turn on Fruitport. And once I turn on Fruitport, you can see now it's added the color into the Fruitport for its Ecf neighborhoods. You can choose multiple municipalities. If you wanted to turn on, for example, Sullivan next to it, give it just a few seconds and it will turn on Sullivan next to it. Now, you do need to be careful because it's automatically trying to choose colors because this is dynamic based on your data. I don't pre-program the colors. And the reason I don't pre-program the colors is if I pre-program it and you add or delete a Ecf neighborhood, the system doesn't automatically pick up on that if I pre-program it. If I let the system choose its colors, it'll pick it up. So if you add a new Ecf neighborhood and then refresh the database with Dan at equalization, this will automatically pick that up. So you can simply choose which municipality you're wanting to look at, and it will bring up your Ecf neighborhoods. You zoom in and you'll start getting some labels on those Ecf neighborhoods as it refreshes, so you can see the label. You can click on the individual parcel and get very basic information about the individual property owner. But this takes the same functionality we had in the previous application for Ecf neighborhoods, if you used that, and gives that to you here. So it simply is showing you the different Ecf neighborhoods. Now, if you go to your legend file, give it a moment, it's thinking through its base layers, and now it's showing you Fruitport Township. Here are the different color schemes that it is assigning and its corresponding information. You can find out similar information on any of your different properties. Just simply select on it. And again, you're simply viewing the different Ecf neighborhoods that are through there. And really, that's the functionality of what the application has always been designed to do. Show you the Ecf neighborhood that those properties are assigned to. What it's nice to be able to do is to figure out, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? You know, now this might be totally legit. I'm not saying that this is an issue, but let's say you had one that's floating out there. You're like, why should that be COM 05? You know, maybe you had one that's just misclassed. You sometimes will get that. Or for example, you know, what's happening in this area? This might be a shared common area reference that there's not actually an Ecf assigned to. So it's not showing any Ecf parcel in that. Okay, so the gray areas are areas that don't have anything tagged to it. That might be something where, should that be assigned to one? You know, you can determine if that needs to have an assigned Ecf or not on it. So again, it helps you see and visualize your different neighborhoods. And really, that's the functionality of the Ecf Viewer, is to show you those informational items. You do have the same functionality. You got your legend, you've got your layer list where you can go in, expand these, turn on and off different layers, and walk through them. And then you have your pop-up information panel. So when you click on your information, it shows you the parcel that's within there. If you want things to show additional information, send me a message and we can look at adjusting those to give you more information on any given application that we have. We really want to customize that to be what you're wanting it to be. So that is a very quick walkthrough through the economic condition factor. We don't have print capability. Let me know, is that something that's needed? You know, over time, keep giving us feedback and we can incorporate additional print templates for the different applications and we can show them to you that way. So let us know on some of that as we develop out. Do you need drawing tools and markup tools and measuring tools? Those are literally 5-second fixes where I just turn those on. If it's needed, let us know. We can incorporate it. I'm trying to keep the applications as simple as possible, just so that we keep it as efficient and user-friendly as possible. The more we put on it, the more it does, you know, make you navigate around on doing things. So let us know. So that's the Ecf Viewer. I'll open it up and see if there are any questions on the Ecf Viewer. Any questions for the Ecf Viewer? You're being an easy crowd today. All right, I'll go ahead and mute you all again, and we'll go on to the next one. Land Table Viewer is going to come across very similar to the Ecf Viewer. Functionality is almost identical because all it's doing is just showing you a different district. So I won't go through all the tools again, but simply expand out your Land Table Viewer. We'll choose Laketon. Wanda's on today. We'll choose Laketon and look at the Land Table Viewer. We can zoom in, and again, that functionality is almost identical, except that in this case, it's looking at what land table it's assigned to instead of the Ecf neighborhood it's assigned to. We can look at our legend view, give that just a moment to refresh itself, and it will show you all the different color schemes that are there. As you zoom in, it'll start labeling. Sometimes when it's in the middle of that zoom, you'll see kind of the parcels zoom at a different, like it looks like all of a sudden distorted. Just give it a second and it'll refresh and it'll come back together. Click on a given parcel, gives you your pop-up information, basic information about that individual property, tells you which table it's being a part of, and similar functionality that way. Everything else within this application is exactly the same as the Ecf Viewer, and all of them use the same search functionality. It's searching off of our parcel layer for property number, address, or owner. So really, the functionality of Land Table Viewer is the exact same as that Ecf Viewer. It gives you a nice visual indication of what's out there. If I go back to my layer list, I could go and turn on, let's turn on Fruitland. You can then go and see your next door neighbor. And see how they may be addressing something, for example. Now, it doesn't necessarily have all of the information about all the table workup because that's buried in the assessing program, but it helps you visualize. For example, is there a reason, these couple out here are part of the R509 resort area, where the purple ones are part of the Lake Michigan, probably because these two don't have frontage access itself, so they're in a different table. So again, very similar functionality. All the tools are identical, and we can adjust that to give you more or less information if you need to. So I'll open it up once again on this and see if we have any questions on the land table. Any questions? Probably not. It's not much different. All right, we'll move on then. And we will go to the plan viewer. This one's going to be completely different. Many of you have used the survey viewer in the past. The survey viewer did just that. It showed you surveys. This does that and a whole lot more. So you get a little splash screen just to accept, and it tells you a little bit about the application. I won't read through all of that. But when you start, you actually are viewing the map like this. And what you have, and new to this application, is it's not just surveys. It also includes land divisions that I have on file, and it includes subdivisions and condominiums. So when we look at things, we'll be able to see all of those as part of this application. Now, when it starts, subdivisions and condominiums are not loaded. And I will put a caveat on that. The land divisions that are shown are only the ones that I have on file and have scanned. I will openly admit that sitting under my desk right now are 2 legal size boxes of land division applications from the past that I used to keep in a hard copy format that have not yet been scanned. As I get those scanned, or as you guys send me land division packets that your municipality has done, that you've approved, where I don't have anything to do with them other than to just get them into our system, then they'll start showing up. If you scan them over to me, I can attach them. Just like we do with surveys. Every time you guys send Terry or I a survey, we put it into our folder electronically, and that night a script runs, interrogates that folder list of all the properties, and says, oh, here's a new survey to add to our map. So the survey viewer starts out with points. I'll go ahead and zoom in. And as I zoom in, now you'll see that condominiums are outlined in a purple dashed outline and subdivisions are a blue dashed outline. As you zoom in, those will also change into polygon filled areas. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out just to a step where it still shows it as points. And if you click on any one of those points, you will get your pop-up box. Or if this is in your way, remember we've got this tool called the pop-up panel. If I click that, it will take the pop-up off the map and it'll dock it over in the left side. By doing that, then what you have is where I clicked, it found parcels. Okay, so it actually clicked on the parcel, not on the survey. So I re-clicked on it and now it shows one of two. It has the parcel, which tells you basic property information, but if I click the next button, or the little arrow button, it says, oh, here's a survey parcel, here's its parcel number, its address, click here to view the survey. If I click that, it will pop this up in a new window, and there's your survey. It happens to be an 8-page survey. What Terry and I are starting to do is, as we have multiple surveys, we tag, and we're trying to, although it's not always 100% consistent, we're trying to put the newest survey as the beginning at the top of the survey link. And if there are older surveys, it might be tagged down through later pages. But any page of the survey we have, in this case, it's all one consistent survey. This is 8 pages long. We have attached that survey. Okay. So that part kind of works the same as it always has. Now, the difference is we also then have land divisions. So if I click on, and I zoomed in, you can click on the polygons as well. This time it found 3 items. It found the parcel, gives you basic information. It finds a survey parcel, and you can view the survey, same as the last one. Or it found a land division parcel, and you could click to view the land division. If you click there, here happens to be from September of 2016, communication I had where we were reviewing, in this case, it's a boundary adjustment. Here's the application, and here's descriptions, some Fruitland Township communication, all part of the official record of that land division. And so this has been all tagged in here with their full application. If there are multiple applications in here, the older applications would be found further down, typically in the process. And we are working on, once we build the repository of the land divisions, where they'd be bookmarks to be able to jump to the different aspects of it. You'll see that idea with the condominiums in just a moment. So I'll zoom back out, and then here's where the big expansion comes. I'm going to click inside this subdivision. Okay, I happen to pick on something that I clicked 12 of. Okay, click another one. I think because I was zoomed out, it didn't know how far to search. So I've clicked on a parcel, but then if I scroll over, it also has the link to the subdivision plan. That subdivision plan, just like we saw in the property viewer, is available. But then the difference, another difference then is if I look for, let it refresh. I'm going to go find a condominium document. So I'll click over here. I happen to click because I grabbed up several parcels. But the first thing it's showing me is a condominium plan for Scenic Woods condos. If I click to view the condo plan, it will open up this PDF, 142 pages of PDF, okay? Now, I'm using Google Chrome again, so if you use a different browser, you might have to look slightly differently at it. But there's a bookmark panel up here. No longer do we have separate documents for condominiums based on which amendment or if it's the master deed. It's all put together with bookmarks. So if I want to go and say, okay, this is Scenic Woods, it's going to start with the master deed. Then later on, it's going to have the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all the way to the last amendment we know of. So in this case, I'm going to just jump all the way. I want to see the most recent amendment. I'm going to jump right to the 7th Amendment. I click the bookmark. It jumps me there. And now I don't have to scroll through 127 pages. I can get to that last amendment that I need, then just scroll a little bit and find out what's going on with the 7th Amendment. What did they change? Okay. So it's got them all organized in the condominiums by the amendment or the master deed that it started as. It also, in that bookmark, gives you the library page of that individual document. So that is a quick overview of the plan viewer. Again, it's giving you surveys, land divisions, subdivisions, and condominium documents all at your fingertips to find them. So with that, I'll open up our mutings and see if there's any questions about the plan viewer.
Hello.
I have a question. We own a condo out in Maranatha and bought a second one that we're combining into one unit, and we sent in paperwork to try to get the factor inclusion for the combined unit. I got this notice where it says pre-denial. I don't understand what that means.
Okay, somebody's making a bunch of noise.
Look at that real quick for you.
I also got
Yep.
tax bill in there for the second unit, but I'm just trying to find out where I am in the process.
All right.
Okay, that didn't work all that well. I'm going to mute everybody. If you've got a question or comment, raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Because whoever it was that was speaking, you broke up. It sounds like somebody else said they'll look into it for you. So if you have a further question, raise your hand and I'll unmute you directly. Sorry about that. That was quite a bit of background noise on somebody's.
Hello? No, I'm working at home, sis.
Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised, so we will move on from that, and we'll go into the. We're going to jump over to another one that's very similar, and then I'll spend a little more time on the inspection tracker. So we're going to jump over to gaps and overlaps. Terry and I have been trying to figure out the best way to communicate and be more efficient on when we find problems or issues where there's a gap or an overlap. Also, that this may evolve over time into part of our description error form process. So when Terry's checking deeds and he finds a problem, something's wrong with the description, he sends a piece of paper, puts it in the mail, you get it a couple of weeks later. Sometimes we find out it never got to you or got lost in a pile and never got addressed. So what we're starting to do is we're starting to place out the points of where we have gaps and overlaps. That's where we started. And then as we start through this next round of processing of deeds and splits and combinations, if we have problems, we're going to start to tag them in here and there'll be some more colors that show up. But what can happen then is this can give you an indication of where we've got current problems with the map in trying to tie it together with your assessment role. So for example, I'll just pick this one up on the lakes up in Dalton Township. And what we have is we have a gap, albeit very small, but we have a little triangular gap up in Dalton Township. And if you click on that, it's going to give you basic information. Just gives you the parcel number that we currently have assigned to it, the area of the size that it currently is. But then what's nice about it is it gives you, you're like, wait a minute, no, this is supposed to be part of this other parcel next to it. You can just click the email corrections. It will open up your email editor. And if I bring that open, it's just, we use Outlook at the county, so it just starts a email. And you could type out whatever your response to Terry and I would be. You can attach correction documents, anything you need to correct. And then once we get that, that would just simply, once we fix that, it would go away on this application. Terry and I are working through a process where it might be that it changes color for a status to show that we've actually addressed it, and it stays there for a period of time, then goes away. But we're still evaluating that. This is just a newer one where we're trying to figure out how we can best keep communication open on the problems we have. So that's simply the gap and overlap, same tools on the toolbar, shows you where we have gaps and overlap issues on the map layer for the parcels, and where we need some assistance, hopefully from you, to get these things corrected. Again, over time, and we will communicate this further if we can incorporate the process of other deed errors or assessment role description errors that need to be correct, and actually have a process that would be where you could submit your correction to us automatically and we would see that. So that's the gap and overlap viewer. Nothing real big on that. Just wanted to show that to you. That's another tool that you have. The Connect Explorer and the Connect Assessment all they simply are the embed of the program into this window. You can still use it separately on a full screen window if you want, but just to bring it in here, we decided to embed the Connect Explorer, which is the standard pictometry, or the Connect Assessment, which is the assessment tracker side. They're both available here in your toolbox. You do need a separate login. Those that use it are already familiar with it. I won't go into logging into those and showing you those at this point. But it's just the same exact application, just embedded into our window as the part of the toolbox. So it's at a little easier to click to if you don't have it favorited. So the last application I have, and I know we're just past right at about an hour, so we'll go through this one and then we'll open up for Q&A and wrapping things up, is the last one that's currently part of the toolbox is called the inspection tracker. Many of you at Equalization remember that have been around a few years, although there's not that many of you that have been around super long. Many of you can recall that we had a small application about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even more than that, that was doing the same thing, just giving you a different view of what properties and how many properties have been inspected. So what you're seeing on screen here is called an operations dashboard. Gives you more charts and graphs and visualizations about what's actually happening with the properties. So pulling information out of the BSNA on the inspections area, when you go and inspect a property, if you log the inspection date and what type of inspection it was, things like that, what you maybe did for that inspection. I'm just pulling that information from that inspections area to show us what's actually been done. We can also then see a map. So what it's giving you is quick indicators. The top number section across here and all the different colors are giving you indicators of how many inspections have been done in the current year. I believe this is currently set for the calendar year. If you all feel that it would be better to have a different year break, then we can do that, but they're all set by the calendar year right now. So for example, as of right now, as of last night, 3,948 inspections have been entered into the BSNA program that have made it all the way into the Assessors 21 program at the county level for the calendar year 2020. You can see the past 5 years, 6 years of inspection numbers. And then I also gave a percentage of how many, so what percent is that 3,948 out of the current 82,918 parcels that we show in the GIS layer. So you're seeing that so far we've inspected just shy of 5% of the properties in this calendar year.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, you're looking at just what my staff inspected?
Nope, this is anything that's in the Assessors 21 database for all time in the inspection records.
You mean the 2020 is just this year?
Correct. It's anything that's happened since January 1st of 2020.
But I have one more question for you. But that's just my staff. That's not outside assessors.
No, not correct. That is any assessor. So when Dan merges databases together, it brings, if they included that in their database export, and then Dan brings that full database in, let's say Wanda, for example, if Wanda had her inspection data in here, it would bring that across and it would show Wanda. So I think I'll answer the question a bit here, Donna, in just a second, because what we can do from this, so right now it's showing you all of the different years, okay? I'll show you the map. I'll show you the map functionality first. The map colors for the inspections are the same as the indicators on the top. And Donna, I'm going to mute you just because of the background noise a minute. So the background, the map colors that we have are matching the intensities of the colors on the indicators. The idea was, if it's red, it's been since 2015 that the last inspection was reported. If it's gray, it's older than 2015. So it's, if the last inspection recorded was 1995 in the database, it'll be gray if that was the most recent inspection in there. Basically going with the idea of green is good, red and gray are bad. And just as a reference number, parcels that have not had an inspection listed in the BSNA record since 2014 totals 56,000, or 68% have not had an inspection in the last 5 years per what has been entered in the assessing database. Again, I'll open up for questions in just a minute. Let me walk through these things because I know this is I knew this would be the area that's got the most questions. The other thing you can do is you can filter these numbers and say, I only want to look at a particular unit. So up at the top, we have some filtering options. So I'm just going to go and choose, let's just choose, we'll choose Whitehall Township. It's there. So if I choose Whitehall Township and then click off of there, it'll close that. It shows the filter up in the box, and it can show that, hey, there's been 46 inspections, 5.23% out of their 879 parcels. So it immediately limits it down just to that unit, okay? If I want to go and choose another one, I could just choose a different unit. I'll choose Dalton. Dalton has 7,317 parcels. They've had 178 inspections, 2.4%, give or take, this year. And again, you can look all the way back and see all of the different reference information. Now, I will tell you that I know that there are a couple of municipalities that don't use the inspection fields, okay? And actually, in this case, it's got both of those on, so I need to turn off. You can choose multiple units at a time. So I actually had that wrong. That was Whitehall and Dalton combined. You can see them when they're selected up there. So here's just Dalton. For example, I will pick Blue Lake Township and turn off Dalton. Blue Lake Township does not log any of their inspections in the BSNA. I talked to Marion and wanted to make sure that my data was coming across right. And she's like, yeah, I have a spreadsheet that I put that in. I don't actually enter the data in the inspection record. And there are a couple of other units that are the same way. So this doesn't necessarily tell you the whole picture. It gives you a portion of the picture if you're using BSNA for the inspections. I will turn off the filtering by unit, although you could leave that on. The other thing you can do is you can actually go through and based on however they were entered, I don't know, it's just pulling from BSNA, you can filter on inspectors. So for example, if you wanted to see what your own inspections looked like, I'm not an inspector, so I have to pick on somebody. I don't know. Annette, can I pick on you? You want to nod your head if I can pick because you're on video? Okay. I'm going to pick on Annette. So I'll pick Annette and it'll go through. And again, it'll look on anything that Annette has entered as an inspection that's pulling from BSNA in any given, in this case, it's all units because it's not filtered. So Annette's initials in the inspection report for the most recent inspection shows up primarily in 2017. Now, this is where I also need your feedbacks. If you're like, wait, something is not right in that, let me know. Connect with me offline because we're it could be that something is not pulling the script. I'm not trying to show anything that's trying to get anybody in trouble, or I'm not trying to do any policing. That's honestly not my thought. I'm trying to give you a tool to be able to help defend what is going on and show you what's actually happening. In the process, technically, that you're able to go see if you know who DE is, or if you know who DRB is, or DKB. We'll choose DKB and we'll take off ASM, and we can look. And well, prior back in 2015, that person did 138. Okay. So you can see that if you know who the initials are. Obviously, it's initials. I don't know who 122 is, but somebody in their database has a program user of 122 or 103 or 1-1. This is just reading any of the data that's coming from there. So this gives you a quick reference to the inspection tracker. Again, going after the, at least long-term concept that we're trying to see if we can get to 20% every year, give or take. That used to be the goal. I know that's changed in recent years, but it helps you be able to see. The other thing with the map view that I thought would be very important and nice is as you zoom into that map view, you can be like, oh, look, here's a whole neighborhood that only 4 of the properties have been checked in the last 5 years. Maybe I should just go out and do an inspection of that neighborhood if that's your unit. So that's really to give you the, a better visualization. You can find those same information and reports through BSNA, but here you got the graphic that can go along with it. In a dashboard, just for reference, as you mouse across it, you see the little circle with 4 arrows on it. If I wanted to say, I want to see a bigger map view, just click that. It'll give you an expanded map view, making it full screen. You can navigate around. You can click on the map. It'll give you some basic information, just like all the other maps do. When you click on it, it gives you, in this case, it gave me 3 different things. So I clicked here. It gave me the parcel. Gave the last inspection was 2009 by L/J. Okay. There's another 2009. So you can find past inspections as well when you click on an individual property. The coloring is based on the most recent, but it'll actually show you all the different inspections that are at that given point. To get out of that, you just go up to the corner and click the same arrow button and it docks it back in. So again, different charts and graphs, inspections by unit. You can break these down and we can adjust these graphs to whatever we find helpful and informative for what you need. So with that, that is the inspection tracker. That's the last app I wanted to go over. Let me open this up for the inspection tracker. I'm going to unmute, so hopefully there's not too much background noise, but we'll see if we can see if there's any questions we want to go over on the inspection tracker. Any questions on the inspections tracker? Somebody's demolishing their office or something. Okay, no further questions on the inspections tracker?
Tom?
Yeah. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, we have an appraisal database for equalization. Is that in the inspections tracker?
Only if those inspection records are put into the Assessing 21 database.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so that's something if we need to incorporate that, then we can talk about how we want to do that. You and I and Dan or whatever can talk. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to mute you all. I've got just a couple more slides. So we'll go back to my slides. So some of the future ideas we have that are currently either in the works or will be in the works soon. I am currently working on a sales finder. It's going to work similar to that dashboard in that you'll have multiple filters available to you where you can choose to show what type of sales you want. I'm working with Dan on which databases we need to pull that data from properly. And then I'm trying to determine all the different filterings that we need to do to pull it all together. So for example, you'll be able to choose, it'll initially show you every sale that we have in the entire BS&A database. But then you can start applying multiple filters to say, hey, only show me the conventionals with a warranty deed, with whatever conditions. You'll have a date range that you could limit it to, and it'll start paring it all down. When I'm ready to deploy that, I will either do another webinar or I'll do a tutorial recording and share that out with you, and it'll show up in the toolbox. But I'm working on the data for that. Just haven't got the data is posing more of the difficulty to get it to work the way I'm envisioning it to work. But we are working on a sales finder. Some other ideas we have are the ag property sketch. Terry and I have done that for a few years during the ag inspections for users to be able to figure out, this area is, there's 6.2 acres of pasture and there's 4.2 acres of cropland on a 15-acre parcel that also has 2 acres of residential. So that tool would come in time when there's some editing capabilities where you could both see what's already there, but let's say there's one that we haven't sketched, it would give you the opportunity to actually sketch out and define the different areas, and when you sketch around it and then tell it what type of area it is that you want to call it, it would tell you what the acreage is. Similar for commercial industrial, where pavement is often an important factor, where we could give you a pavement sketching tool. We've done some of those on some large industrials where they've got tons of pavement outside for the appraisals and things like that. We'll give you some tools to view that initially, and then over time, be able to actually edit those and submit new sketchings in there if you need. We're looking at enhanced reporting and printing. So we're doing some additional software upgrades later this summer. that will give us some new printing and reporting functionality. We're also looking into the imagery integration of pictometry into something like the property viewer, where it'll be a separate window because you can't make it work on the same layer, but as you choose a parcel on the map, it would automatically bring a second docked window open of the pictometry, and they would work interchangeably with other applications. And then we're just, we want your ideas. If there's something that is like, hey, could you do this and could this become something? I'll work with you. Nate and I will meet with you to talk through what processes we need, what data needs to come from where, and we are always open to different ideas for additional tools. In time, I see this toolbar not having 6 or 7 applications, but potentially 12 to 15. Who knows, maybe more. So that's the future ideas. If you have other ideas, probably just because we're having a little trouble with some of the background noise, if you want to raise your hand, we can open that up. Otherwise, you could just email me and I can connect offline afterwards in the coming days about other ideas that we can get on the whiteboard, if you will, to start building additional things. So how do you actually get to all of this? Well, here's the codes. Okay, so you may want to grab a screen capture. Again, I will take this information and email it out to everybody here later today. It'll probably be after lunch this afternoon. But if you wanted to jot down that address, and I'll leave this screen up for a bit, you can either do a screen capture or you can jot it down. That Assessors Toolbox link is the URL that you would need to put into your browser. Your usernames are all for everybody is your last name and then the first 2 letters of your first name. So for example, if your name's Jane Doe, you'd have a username of Doe, J-A. For passwords, if you currently work at Equalization, your password is, as shown on screen, musk=2020! When you log in the first time, it will ask you to change that password. From that point on, I will have no clue what your password is. So if you call me and say, I don't know my password, I can fix that, but it's going to be a reset to a default password, and then you'll have to change it again when you log in. So I don't have a way, our old applications, I knew what your passwords were because I assigned them. This one, it allows you to change your password and connect to it. So if you're Equalization staff, it's musk=2020! If you're not county Equalization staff, it's Musk Assessor, MUSKASSR, 2020! Case sensitive, so the capital M, capital E, or capital A are important. So we'll leave that up for just a few seconds for those of you that are jotting that down. If you try that and it does not work, email me and let me know. It could be that you're watching this and I didn't set your user account up. I went through everybody that I'm aware of, but maybe you're not the actual assessor, you're an assistant, and I didn't know that you were needing access to it. Just send me an email. If it's not working for you, if it says user not found or password errors, and then I'll reset things and check it and communicate with you. So that probably should be enough time for everybody to have jotted down at least that URL link. Again, I'll send this out this afternoon. And in closing, before I just open it up for open questions, I just wanted to close with this. Learn to adjust yourself to the conditions you have to endure, but make a point of trying to alter or correct the conditions so that they are most favorable to you. And that's exactly what I'd like you to try to do here. I know we have to endure these changes of technology. Some of you may not like them. Some of you may love them. But even in the loving of those technologies, they may not be exactly what you're needing it to be. Let me know. These are applications that I've designed from my perspective, and while I may be technically a level 2 MCAO, I've never actually done assessing. You all know that. I've sat in the office a lot of times and I do this tech stuff. So trying to make the best tools for you guys. Any questions, any feedback, I'd love to hear that. So here's my last slide, just thanks and any questions, and I will open it up. Hopefully, if you want to remute yourself once I unmute everybody, if you don't have a question, just mute yourself. That way, hopefully we don't get as much background noise. So I will unmute everybody and see if we have any questions. Questions, feedback, any comments? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So go ahead, Annette.
Tom.
Yeah.
Question, and just the very beginning when you had the weather screen
Yes.
for the radar, I did briefly think, I wondered if you would be able to have like, does that include like a forecast?
I'm trying to get that, like an hour by hour, like what's happening the next, where you can click and get some details of what's anticipated. I'm
Okay.
trying to get, it doesn't right now, but I'm trying to get that.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I think that would be helpful too, because people want to know, is it going to rain later? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Something like
Exactly.
that. Okay, all right.
Yep.
That's my question.
Great. Anyone else? Any questions in the gallery there, Terry?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, again, put this to use as you get your hands on it and start using it. Again, some of the other applications are going to start going away. So the links that are on the old pages, or if you have bookmarks and you hit the bookmark and it says this page is not found anymore, I'm going to start shutting down some of these old applications like the Survey Viewer and the Ecf Viewer, things like that. Again, trying to make these tools for what's going to benefit you. We're trying to make these tools that become more of an active tool instead of a once-off print. The thing that Terry and I have seen many times over the years is 2 days before the reviewer comes in, we're like, oh, wait, I need this quick map. We show it to the reviewer once and then it sits in the corner. We really want these tools to be something you can use on a day-to-day basis. So we also need your feedback to be able to make them what you need them to be. So please reach out to us. I think everybody knows my email address. You can find it from a colleague also. Let us know and we will be very responsive as best we can. Some things can be quickly done. Some things may take a little time, but we'd love to make this what everybody needs it to be. So with that, anything else from anybody? Otherwise, I think we're all done and I will go ahead and stop the recording. I will share this recording back once it's all processed, and I'll put that out and send that link too with it for everybody. So with that, thank you all, and we'll talk to you later.
Tom, this is
Later,
awesome.
Tom. Yeah, you will.